Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, fantastic.
So welcome everyone. Today's seminar, where we're going to be talking about AI and ChatGPT. Many of you may be familiar with ChatGPT through your workplace. You may be familiar with it through trends you've seen online, maybe Instagram and TikTok videos if you're part of social media. And the seminar is designed specifically for leaders and managers that want to really understand the revolutionary impact that AI, and more specifically with ChatGPT and other LLM technologies, generative AI, is having. There's a vast pantheon of opportunities and use cases that have been explored across the end-to-end value chain, across many industries that companies are now taking into account and trying to expand against. Our host today is Next Step Systems. They're a firm that has been busy exploring the power of AI to support businesses of the future. And they've been very, very active in developing prompt engineering and looking at LLM use cases. Our presenter today, Gilbert Stenck, has been an industry advisor for over 30 years, focusing on lean and continuous improvement. He's an accomplished author, and he's been using AI and ChatGPT to show how it enables and further advances the cause of lean across business processes. So I'm going to hand over to him in a moment. Just a little bit of housekeeping. There are sections in the presentation today where Gilbert would stop and take questions live. But if you do have additional questions that come up, there will be a Q&A session at the end. So we may not be able to get to all the live questions in the middle of the presentation to ensure timely flow. But we will make sure that any questions that you raise in the chat directly are being captured, and we'll be raising them in a Q&A session at the end. And of course, once we hit time at 11 here Eastern, we will make sure that you have access to Gilbert. So if there's any additional questions, you can reach out to him directly to get them answered and continue a conversation. With that, Gilbert, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Amir. One of the things that I'd like to ask everyone, if it's possible, if you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras. It just makes the presentation a lot easier when I see faces and I can communicate directly to you. I would really appreciate that if you wouldn't mind doing that.
And sorry, Gilbert, just one other disclaimer before we begin. This is a live session that is being recorded for everybody's benefit.
Right. Just a quick question. Is my share screen working live?
Yes, I can see the ChatGPT.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I'd like to welcome you all here to this presentation. A little bit of my background. I started working on a company called Palliser Furniture many years ago in the 1980s. I worked through that process, and I was introduced at that time to the organization of lean manufacturing and implementation. And we went through that process there, actually changed a whole big part of the factory around into a new area, and actually worked through all of that stuff and implemented big time lean manufacturing. From there, I went into the steel industry, tie rods and cylinders, worked on lean in that sense. And after that, I was recruited by the research institution formerly called Forentech, and now it's called FP Innovations. It's the second largest research institute in the world that works with wood and wood products. It's located here in Canada with campuses on UBC and our head offices in Quebec. I was recruited to be a secondary advisor going out to companies, and I see some of my former clients here. I welcome you here and enjoy seeing you again. Helping them, working them, introducing lean, and giving them an opportunity to understand what lean is all about. After about 5 years ago, I was offered to move to out to another area of the country, and I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually go out and create and work on my own business. Over the last 5 years, I've worked on creating the 7 plus 1 secrets of True North strategic planning. And that program I have been working on and is in an implementation process of a company. About 6 months ago, I got introduced by my mentor. His name is Kane Minkus, and he will be attending at the end and actually presenting as well on ChatGPT and AI. And it opened up a whole new world for myself to look forward on what can happen and what ChatGPT can actually do for you. You might be here and curious why, what is all this about, this AI? You might want to stay ahead. Maybe you know a little bit about this ChatGPT and AI that's happening. Maybe you are feeling that the world is just changing way too fast for you and you need to catch up. Or what's the next big thing in technology-wise that you want to go and take a look at and understand as you're moving forward on this part? Let's do a time travel through technology. Ever scared that computers may be taking over? Remember that time when our first computer box, Apple or whatever, was into our house, and my dad invited a coworker over from his company just to show how or what that box can do for us. And I remember at that time just sitting there, and all they could show is some very stickman games that we could play on it. We sure have come a long ways from being those stickman games on those computers. Or this is another one that's really, I remember clear in my mind, I'm sure most of you as well, that annoying dial tone as you're trying to get onto the internet. And it was maybe used, and especially if you had a party line, it even made it more complicated to be able to use your internet and actually use it. Or I'm thinking of the smartphones. I remember one of the general managers that worked at the organization and he was so proud of his big smartphone that he had, but really it was a box that he was carrying with him with a phone that was attached through the wire to that box. Well, look where tech has brought us today. You know what? Does anybody else today even think of turning on a computer or say, hey, the computer is not going to be doing what it needs to be doing and I should not use it? Or has anybody else had the opportunity with the internet? How many times a day do we go onto the internet and look up things and view things and try to find out things? Or how about your smartphone? You know what? I got one right laying in front of me here as well. And I'm sure every one of you, we're always totally connected continuously with our smartphones. So guess what? AI is already here. Have you ever thought of that? Just a quick question by raise of hands. How many of you have asked Siri or Alexa a question recently? Anybody? Siri or Alexa? Yeah, guess what? That's AI. Or another one here that we come across. How about Google Maps? Who uses Google Maps? Anybody? Guess what? That's AI. And how about Netflix recommendations? Have you ever thought that that was AI as well? You know what? We haven't really ever even thought about this here, but AI is really all around us. It is not the future anymore. It is actually here today. How many of you knew and are already using AI? You can throw that into the chat or just raise your hand if you're already using AI and as you're moving forward. So there are so many questions out there. Is AI something to be scared of? I'm sure a lot of you have thought about this here, that AI is something that might maybe really be something that's scary. Is it going to take my information and pass it on and so on and so forth? These are all questions that even I asked myself on there. Or do you need to be a tech genius to use AI? Do you need to have a computer programming behind yourself to use AI? Or can you just use AI? And I'm hoping with this presentation today, it'll be able to clear up a little bit some of those thoughts and things that you may have on that. How can it make a difference in my life, you might even ask? How can it change my life or even my business life? The next question might be what's the big deal about AI anyhow? You know what? I can do my work. I keep going. I move forward. But what's so important? What's the next big deal about AI? And here's a big one that a lot of people are asking. Can AI replace my job? Those are all questions that are relevant for each one of us. And we should be asking those questions before we jump into anything like that itself. So here's some key statistics that I'd like to share with you. Half the people, and this is relevant as of probably about a month ago, half the people in big companies like McKinsey are already using AI. Most companies say AI is their number one focus. And using AI can make your team 66% more effective. And this is based on McKinsey studies that they did. Another one is put together by CFO.com. 72% of managers think AI is the future of their business. So it's not just a thing that's here for the present or a fly in the sky kind of a thing. No, it is here. It's going to stay here. And in one sense, as one of the managers told us as a team, if you're not on the bandwagon and you're not with it, get off of it because the bandwagon is moving forward. By 2025, using data and AI will be as normal as having a coffee break. McKinsey is forecasting. So these are some of the things that, if you weren't aware of already, is actually happening out there. Here's just another interesting statistics that I don't have in the presentation, but ChatGPT and AI was only released to the public as of November 2022. It was not accessible before that to any of us. And it has grown already to a multi-billion dollar industry itself out there. So that's just something to keep in mind, that in these last 6 months, well, it's almost a little longer now, it's about 9 or 10 months, it has been the fastest growing industry ever out there right now. So what is AI? AI is a way that you're going to have to transform your thinking a little bit. Do you have a manual in English, but your employee speaks another language? You know, for instance, I remember to my Palliser days, we had a number of foreign employees, and they weren't able to speak or understand or read or write the English language, but we still were held accountable to keep them safe. I know I talked to a number of companies. We've got Ukrainians that are coming in from Ukraine, they're in that company, or even others from other countries coming in. Do you struggle to make sure you got that information right? Guess what? ChatGPT can translate this for you, and I'm going to demonstrate that in the presentation as a quick overview. You know what you really need to think of ChatGPT is not that it's just a business model or unit out there. It's actually a very super smart friend that you have. It's not your enemy. It's not going to go back, stab you in the back, but it's a personal friend in a sense that you have with you. And guess what? It's not just for big companies. I have small organizations, small little companies that I have worked with. I've introduced this here and I've shown them some of these things on how they work. And you know what? As they look at this, they are already implementing this. And guess what? It can solve many, many of your everyday problems. Problems that you might not even have considered or even have thought about. But it's something that a problem will very easily be able to put to rest. So, introduction. Imagine it's a busy Friday afternoon. You want to head out to the weekend, you want to go and do stuff, and and you're running late in time. Well, guess what? ChatGPT is like an intern that never sleeps. It keeps moving. It keeps going in the same place. It keeps working even while you are not working. Maybe you need to cut your to-do list in half. You know what? ChatGPT can help you in doing that, in incorporating and taking care of some things. By ChatGPT, to be able to do some of those things, it actually gives you time back to do other things that you may want to do. And you can all do that without hiring additional people. So what I'd like to do is I have about 3 demos that I'd like to kind of go through with you. They're pre-recorded. They are not live because doing them live would have been a little bit hard to move forward in that. And so the first one that we're going to look at here is I'm asking ChatGPT, and this is just one single prompt that I'm doing, and I'll be talking about prompts itself a little later on. I'm asking it to create a preventative maintenance program for a kitchen manufacturer. And what it does in this creative preventative maintenance program, let me just get it going. The video, okay, and it creates the objectives, it creates the components to be maintained, it creates the preventive maintenance tasks. And what I found even interesting is for the kitchen manufacturer, I didn't prompt this and told them what to look. It prompted them to look for CNC machines, the saw cutting equipment, laminating machines, paint booths, conveyors, air compressors, like all the stuff that is in a kitchen manufacturer itself. Then it describes what the weekly tasks should be on each of your machines that you're supposed to be performed. I did not do anything or prompt anything into ChatGPT itself. I just asked it this one single question, and that's called prompting it. It continues on, and it talks about monthly, quarterly things, semi-annually, and annually. Then it asks and says documents and records that you need to be able to do. So maintenance log, inventory management, training records, key performance indicators. It's telling you what key performance indicators. Now you can add or subtract to that. Software maintenance tools that you may need to be able to use. And, oops, sorry, I just jumped ahead of there for me for a minute. And I'm just gonna let it run to get back to that. And so as it's working through and creating all of this stuff here, and as you see it is running here again, it does a lot of this work. And imagine the time that it would free up for yourself to be able to do. So what I asked it next to do is to create a checklist with appropriate dates. And this one is really what blew me away. As I asked it to do this here, it created the checklist, and it created the checklist in this format. I didn't ask it to do it. It's almost like it created that you can just plug and play right into your Excel spreadsheet. So it gives a machine, it tells what it needs to be done, it tells when the next due date was. Now you can manipulate this and change this however you want, but it also, you add then who is assigned to it, and then you fill out the pending part of it. And all you really need to do on this part of it here is just have it created, and you then take and copy it into any of the programs that you have that you're doing. You see the monthly tasks, the quarterly tasks, the semi-annually tasks. All that part of it is incorporated in this here. So this is just an overview of what this part can be done. And it's something that any one of you can work on and actually use in your organization. The next one that I'd like to look and show here, let me just get that over to the next slide here, is I create, there we go. Okay, so what I'm doing next here is I'm asking ChatGPT to draft a checklist on how to run a Kaizen event in your manufacturing facility. I don't know how many of you are familiar with a Kaizen event is. It's a continuous improvement program that you implement in your facility, and I'm asking ChatGPT to create that for myself. So again, I'm going to start the recording on this here, and it's moving through that part of the process. This is one chat, or this is a prompt that I had developed offline first, and then all I did is I just copied and pasted that prompt into here. So it's not that you're typing the prompts and trying to figure it out as you're doing. You can actually recreate those or create those prompts in advance and actually work through that part of it. We have a whole training program on how to efficiently and effectively produce prompts and build those prompts, and including in that, we also have a package that is available on prompts that have been pre-developed that can be used as an organization. So as we're moving through this part of it here is I'm asking it to create this basic checklist for a manufacturing plant process. So it creates the whole checklist of what to do, what gather, assemble a team, set your objectives, determine the time frame, gather the data, and then what to do during the event, those things that are the. Imagine if you don't know much about a Kaizen event and trying to search online or trying to go somewhere to find out what do you need to do. How many hours would you have spent doing that? Well, guess what? This here does it for you. As you can see, it's unfortunate I can't just plug it and you would see bang, it would show up. But that's literally how quick it was. And during the event, and then finally the post-event. And so I asked this then to go and create this as custom for furniture manufacturing, which was my background. So you can do kitchen, you can do automotive, whatever your industry is, millwork, any of those, and it would create the same thing. And you can see now it creates this specifically to a furniture manufacturing, upholstery, finishing, cutting 15% on improvement in upholstery, time by 20%. And it gives, you got to look at this as more of as suggestions than necessarily that it is a process that it's actually working through and going through all of this part of it here. So as it's going through this here, so I went and, oh, come on, please don't do that to me. Okay. I will just try to get to that point there. Okay, so as it's doing it for the, you see that example of the furniture part that's doing. So what I did then is I said, okay, you know, this is great for the during event and post event. Now I have students here that really don't know anything about, can't understand the English language and how to do that and how to move forward on it. And a part of what happened there is the, I asked it to translate into German. And so when I did that, it did do it for me, and I was surprised how accurate it was. For myself, I am totally fluent in German. I actually taught for a number of years German here in Canada, and it just blew me away on how this part of it moved forward on going on this year. Scott, sorry for interrupting. Can you send Kane that Zoom link and passcode, please?
Sure, no
Thank you.
problem.
Okay, so moving forward on this part of it is okay, so that was Kaizen event. Okay, so the last one that I did here as a presentation is I was asked initially of somebody if they wouldn't mind if I wouldn't do a oh, come on. If I wouldn't do something on a 2-second lean philosophy. The person that asked me on this here was Richard Evans, who some of you may know, and he said, you know what, let's see what it does here and how does that work. So I just asked a basic question. You are knowledgeable and have an advanced information regarding the 2-second lean philosophy. And so it created this here, went onto the internet. At first it said who developed it. It's a lean manufacturing enthusiast and who he is and what the philosophy is. It goes into continuous improvement, elimination of waste, and employee involvement, and things of all of that nature. This one is a little bit longer because I'm also going to go through a little bit more detail. What you can do in prompt engineering is it's very important that you also say what type of voice prompt the AI should be speaking to. So I said, you have a voice that is both inspiring and casual, like Nelson Mandela. And so you can use anybody in whoever it is. You might even go and say you have a voice of Barack Obama, or maybe you want to even say and go and be a cruel guy and say you have a voice of like Adolf Hitler or something like that. You know, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that is what you need to do, but I'm just saying this is the variety of voices that you can set up. The another interesting thing, so it says it acknowledges it, and it's saying, hey, this is how I'm going to provide helpful and engaging response in the spirit of inspiration and approachability. So that works on that. So the next thing that I asked it to do, come on, please. Okay. When you want it to work, it doesn't work. Okay, so I talked about Nelson Mandela. So the next thing I said to it, this information we are creating is for an audience in an organization whose age is between 25 and 50 years old. So you can make this very specific. If you're going to use AI for a children's thing, you can then go ahead and say, okay, I'd like to use AI and create it in a children's presentation. So then you say it's for a 5-year-old or for a 6-year-old or for a 7-year-old or something like that. The other thing that you can continue saying on that part of it as well is if it's somebody for seniors, you can also say maybe it's for women, maybe it's for men, you know, however you want to work through that part of it. So it does that. It says I will create it and do it that way. So the next thing, my video is acting up, but anyhow, hopefully it'll work now. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, here we go. I'll just let it run as it's running here. Okay. So the next thing that I put into ChatGPT that it would be able to do is I said, now create an introduction for an audience who has no idea what 2-second lean philosophy is and why the organization should consider it. Okay, so as it goes through this here, of course, he's creating that introduction and put that total introduction into place as they're working through on this here, and explains in detail what it is. So what I then said is, okay, can you now please summarize this and create a PowerPoint presentation with a minimum of 5 bullet points per slide? So this is one of the first things when I started using AI is what blew me away. the hours that I spent over the years to create the PowerPoint is incredible. And here, I wish I could show you live. It's actually running right now like this. That's how quickly it is actually preparing your PowerPoint based on that information that I had generated before, and you're working through this here. Excuse me. From these PowerPoint, hey, it's great to have your PowerPoint slides in here and you're working through all this PowerPoint. But the next stage that you need to do is oh, come on, I'm so sorry. Okay, the next thing that you want to do is hey, it's great that you have these PowerPoint slides, but what are you going to say? So I said, now create these scripts for each of those PowerPoint slides. So it actually goes in there and creates scripts which you can expand or change around or whatever. These are suggestions, what you yourself can use as you're presenting these PowerPoint slides to the audience that you're doing it. So these are 3 examples that show the capability. I am also working with one organization. I'm not privy right now to show it here, but one organization is trying to read off of their ACAD drawings, dimensions, sizes, things that you're able to do that. I was able to extract that dimensions and drawings from the drawings, sizes, tables, names, you name it, and bring it into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT do analysis on the drawings, on how it fits, how it works. Another scenario that I worked with an organization is we're looking at creating, it's called a chatbot, basically taking all of that company's information that they have on their systems and putting it into a bot, and that chatbot would be then offline and it would just be for your organization. There's an opportunity to grow, to get possibly some government funding for this here in Canada, at least, to doing this part of it. But it's the future that is coming on and that we're working towards. So going to the next slide, prompt engineering. Want to make ChatGPT work just for you? Well, here are some simple tricks you need to take a look. You need to have customized prompts for specific needs that you're going to be working with. You know what? It's easier, much easier than you think you can do it. We have prompts right now available that allow you to create your strategic plan. We have prompts available that allow you to create emails. We have prompts that allow you to create blogs. We have prompts that allow you to create information for your employees. You name it. Probably, what are we at, Scott? Probably about 1,000 plus or even more than that prompts, right?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to this prompting thing here that might give a little different insight?
Well, prompt engineering in what context? What would you recommend?
Just why prompt and how prompt engineering can help organizations, and why is it beneficial and to learn this here and going forward?
Well, prompt stacking is the ability to line them up. What could be similar to a workflow. And the way that I use it is I line them all up and I just knock off all my to-do things rapidly without thinking about it. It keeps it contextual. It keeps it in the same format that I like to do my work.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. So get involved. We've come a long way from fearing computers, right? We're not at that point anymore. We've come a long way. AI is here to stay. You know what? You may want to fight it all you want, but AI is not going to go away. It is here. Why not make use of this tool? And it's pretty awesome. Don't just watch the tech wave. You know what? Participate in it. Get into it. Seriously. I mean, get on and get into this part of this program. I'd like to also see that my mentor and Scott's mentor, Kane Mitkas, has joined us here. I'd like him to, he's been doing this now right from the beginning. He's done a lot of research in this part of AI and ChatGPT. I've done an overview right now, Kane, for up to ChatGPT and what it is and how organizations can use it. And I appreciate you taking the time, because I know you're very busy here, to maybe fill in and just kind of from your perspective, who has done this now for quite a while, is just kind of give an overview and understanding what it can make a difference in the businesses' lives.
Great. Hi, Gilbert. How are you? Can you hear me and can you see me? I guess
Yeah,
would be the
perfect.
first question. Okay, awesome. That's great. Well, so thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm excited to add to this presentation. I'll do a very short introduction, then I'm going to start to take you through some other categories of great tools to really inspire your imagination. So I've been building technology companies for over 25 years in Silicon Valley. I've built over 40 of them. We've done $500 million in our companies. And I have been teaching and training founders, CEOs, investors, advisors, employees, teams, entrepreneurs for almost 20 years in scale-up technologies and how to help their businesses scale up. We've had over 3 million people come through our events. We've done events with Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, you name it, they've been at our events. So the idea here is when AI became commercially released about a year ago, we started showing founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and leadership teams how to use this to really scale up. And so what you started taking a look at today with Gilbert and Scott is how to be able to use what's called text AIs, which are large language models. That's the term for them, is LLMs. And what I thought I would expand on here during this short section is I wanted to jump in and support, because I love talking about this. In fact, I was recently just speaking at Tony Robbins' event, as we are the faculty that trains his audiences in artificial intelligence. We were showing them the different categories and how you could actually consider the application of these categories. So, Gilbert, can you see my screens and everything? I want to make sure, because actually I see you and your screen share. So there you go. Okay, just popped it off. Okay, good. Now I see everything, and I see everybody. That's great. Okay. I see Jim, I see Scott, and I see several others watching. So, all right, so what I want to dive into actually is take you even through a more expanded version of thinking, which is what are the other categories? So text and LLMs are just one category, but let's take a look at how are some of these AIs actually being used in other particular areas. Okay, so we'll dive right in. So the question of how can all this AI technology affect you at your businesses? Well, it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. We've actually spent the last essential year dividing companies into their action parts and understanding exactly how to help them integrate workflows and integrate AI tools into their business. So regardless of what actual business you're in, let's talk about where companies are integrating these into their workflows. So first of all, they're using them to increase leads. And whether you're a B2B company or whether you're a B2C company, we are all in search of more opportunities, more leads. So we're using these tools to essentially increase leads. And I'll give you a quick example. Here's a company that we recently invested in. It's called TradeTech. And TradeTech actually, this is SalesTech rather. I'll show you TradeTech in a second. SalesTech is in our LinkedIn. So when we want to generate more opportunities in LinkedIn, whether we're looking for financiers, whether we're looking for vendors, whether we're looking for distributors, retailers, whether we're looking for recruiting executives, whatever, anybody's on LinkedIn, right? Every type of professional. We can use this, and what it actually does on our LinkedIn profile is it can actually go out to everybody in our LinkedIn profile. It will then scan everybody's profile, and it'll come back and it'll share with us how to create a hook that will likely get their attention in what's called a direct message, right? So let's say you wanted to go out and you wanted to reach out because you wanted to expand your dealer network or your distribution network or your retail network or however, whatever is important to you, or even your customer database if you want to do that on LinkedIn. Well, this tool actually helps us understand how to reach out to people cold, but create hooks that are basically personalized to them based upon their profiles. So let's say I see Jim Wynn on here. So let's say I use this tool and Jim was on my profile on LinkedIn, and it went out and said, hey, I noticed that Jim is an avid golfer and he's also been in the manufacturing industry for 25 years. And so it's going to create a hook for me to say, hey, Jim, we're working on a new podcast or a new launch or something, and we're really looking for someone who has been an extraordinary and involved golfer and in the manufacturing industry for years, because we're looking to invite them to give a little presentation or do a little interview on our podcast that combines both golfing and manufacturing, so we could talk about how sports affect leaders in the manufacturing industry or whatever it is. The point is that it would personalize it to Jim's world, and that's giving us somewhere around a 70% response rate versus that if you reach out to somebody cold on social media, the average response rate is between 5 and 8%. So that's a big game changer, for example, on lead generation for that kind of thing. There's another company that we recently invested in called TradeTech, and this does a similar thing but on SMS. In other words, if you have anybody on your CRM system, or you have anybody in your phone book that you want to reach out to for any reason, partners, promotional partners, sponsors, customers, or whatever, this bot will essentially reach out and then it will engage them and hook them in, and then it will actually have a human-like conversation. So imagine if you were to text somebody and you said, hey, Bob, what are you doing tonight? And Bob writes back and says, well, I'm having dinner. And then you say, well, what are you doing afterwards? And says, well, I'm going to grab a movie and then hang out with the family. Well, you're assuming that there's a human being on the other side of that communication, and you're used to doing that on SMS or WhatsApp or whatever text text bot you're using. In the meantime, this trade tech bot that we've invested in essentially can go out and do a similar thing, but it's a bot talking to a human, but it's in such a human-like form that they will engage, and it can essentially go out with an intention. It can nurture, it can pre-qualify, and it can book them on your calendar without you having to do anything more than just saying, I'd like you to go out to these contacts, and this is what I'd like you to ultimately do. So you can set that up to do anything you'd like, again, bring in partners, sponsors, investors, financiers, customers, or whatever. And that saves you a huge amount of time for outreach. And so we've been doing that with many, many companies. This one is a chatbot, and we do a lot with chatbots with companies around their customer service because we're looking to create a lot of very conversational AI experiences. And this is one of the main things that companies all over the world are having us go and integrate. So that's a lead increase real quick. From there, we also are seeing this as a massive integration into content and creative. So any creative that your teams have to do. Now, whether you manage the marketing or whether you have marketing or CMOs or whatever the size of your company is, whatever teams are doing it, maybe you're managing the marketing, maybe you've got your whole team or your marketing directors or CMOs. They can be using the tools that we show them how to use in marketing. They're extraordinary. And we're seeing that when it comes to marketing, whether you're marketing or doing promotions on social media, whether you're doing email blasts, whether you're doing promotional campaigns, media, TV, PR, whatever it is, you're going to need some sort of creative content, right? And so we're using all sorts of great tools that are creating videos for us. This is one product that we work with called Synthesia, which allows us to create avatar-driven videos. So we can go text to video in just a few seconds. We can type in whatever we want it to say, and it can essentially has a human avatar presenting it. We can do it with images where we can create any image to tell any story we want for any social media post because we know images are so powerful. It's absolutely this is Midjourney. I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go forward. In the meantime, I can text any concept of an image, and it will create that. I'm going to show you a lot more of those in just a second, so we'll come back to that. This is Jasper, which can help me write any blogs, help me write any content that I need to put up for social media. If I'm SEO optimizing my content, if I want to create any ad creative, whether it's social posts or whether I'm doing a PPC marketing, I can use this tool. It has incredible ability to create high converting ad posts. We're doing this with videos where we're generating videos from text. I can now generate videos from text. We can create ebooks or lead magnets at the drop of a hat within just a few seconds. We can create training or educational videos to position our company or our brands as authorities. We can use this to create video scripts. Then we can put those into the video generators and create it, and so on and so forth. This creates our landing pages for us. So we're doing a lot with creative and content because that's a very time-consuming part. It's very time-consuming for our teams. It's very time-consuming for us if we're involved in the creative. And so that's another place that we're using it. Going on from there, we're using it to help increase conversion, whether it's ourselves or it's our sales teams. So naturally, any kind of high-ticket sales or any partnership closes or anything that you're doing that requires a one-on-one meeting is going to require some sort of sales process, right? That could mean, the good old get on Zoom and talk. And that's how most deals are getting closed, especially if you're doing any large deals, whatever the large deal is for you. Whether your sales team is doing it or whether you're doing it, or maybe you're doing it with partnerships and your sales team is doing it with customers. However you're doing it makes no difference. But now there are great tools that can support anybody in a sales process to help them do that. We're using these all the time. Here's a company we recently invested in called Xero, which records any call or any conversation you have and then gives you coaching feedback on how you could do better and how you could handle objections better for next time. Here's another one that we've invested in, which does real-time interactivity, so you can actually practice your coaching or practice your sales rather with a coach. So you can actually do a sales presentation. So if you want to set your sales team up to be able to work with a sales coach, this is all AI-driven. And then here's one that I love. This is actually an AI called Poise. We plug it right into Zoom. And when we plug it right into Zoom, what it does, it allows me to actually get feedback immediately as to how I'm communicating in a sales process. So I work with CEOs, executives, leadership teams, and I charge around $250,000 a year to advise and consult their companies, right? Well, it's a big ticket for any company, really, if they're going to invest in that. So they, of course, no matter whether they met me through a referral or a speaking engagement like a Tony Robbins or something, they want to talk to me and see if we're a good fit, right? So we jump on Zoom and we have a conversation. We have a discovery meeting, which is essentially a sales meeting to understand if we should work together, right? Now, normally I would close about 2 out of 10 meetings that I would have, and I've been doing this for 17 years, so it's a pretty good close for a $250,000 kind of contract. And yet, I started using Poised, and I tripled my conversion. And here's why. While I'm talking, it's giving me real-time feedback. It says things like, hey, you're talking too fast, slow down. Or it says you're talking too much, ask a question. Or it says you're talking too much, take a pause. It starts giving me real-time coaching on how I can communicate. But not only me, but it's also analyzing the other person who's speaking, because it's analyzing their content or their speech to text, And from there, it's able to analyze up to 48 different emotions. It can share with me the emotions that they're having, whether it's skepticism, concern, hesitation. It can also identify the objections that they're having and start to give me real-time feedback on how I can handle their concerns or their objections so that we can move that process towards close much faster. It's pretty amazing, and tools like this are making a huge difference. So that's just in the conversion side of things. Moving on from there is it's allowing us to rapidly launch products, especially products that we might be using for any kind of marketing. So if you're ever looking to create a book because you're looking to position yourself or anybody in your team as a personal brand, if you're looking to create any presentations or speeches, we now have tools that can help us create keynote presentations or any video presentations. If you wanted to produce or release any kind of training products from your company, maybe as a lead generator, or maybe because you're selling them, it just depends on how you use them. We've now invested in this recent company, which is called Course Factory, which does what's called text to course. And what that means is you can put in an idea for a course, and it will just take your idea from your paragraph and create an entire series of modules. It could be 6 modules, 12 modules, 18, whatever you tell it to create. It will create an entire course with quizzes and homework and handouts and worksheets and everything so that your course is completely done. It'll actually put it into videos. We can have avatars presenting and teaching it, and that can all get done in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, so it's completely done. Now, how you would use that course would be up to you. Every company that we've worked with, from Nike to Apple to retail companies to, of course, coaches and consultants, everybody along the train is using education as a way to engage their customers, or they might be using these courses to train their internal teams or train their vendors. It just depends on how you want to use those types of courses. So we'll go a little bit further from there. Next area that is creating marketing campaigns. So a little bit differently than the creative and the content we create. These are actually marketing campaigns. So if your team is in need of building websites or getting up landing pages very quickly, we can do this now in 30 seconds with the help of AI. We can SEO optimize your sites, which of course, SEO traffic is one of the highest ROI traffics that we've got out there. So we can use AI tools to immediately go in and assess that. We can use tools now to CRO your site, so conversion rate optimize all of your sites, all of your ads and everything to make sure everything you're doing is great. You know, we usually pay teams between $10,000 and $100,000 just to do CRO analysis. Now we can have an AI tool basically do it for almost nothing. It can help us create sales pages if we're doing any stuff online and selling, and landing pages if we're doing anything for lead generation, if we're doing anything to create opt-in people to our databases or whatever you do. Every major platform right now that's using landing pages or using funnels is now incorporating these AI tools, which means it's critical that you understand how to actually utilize them or your team understands how to utilize them. I got 2 more areas here. This one's a game changer. It's called personalized customer experience. And this is what AI has absolutely changed. And the idea of what's changed is you've never been able to have such a powerful, personalized experience at scale than what we are able to do right now with these AI tools. What does that mean? Well, it means every time we want to communicate with a customer or a vendor or anybody in our database, we have had to essentially generate something ourselves. We had to generate the email, generate the text, generate the voicemail, or get on a phone call or a meeting or Zoom with them and actually use our time. Well, now we don't have to do that. In fact, now, whether you'd like to or not, I'll show you the first one here, which is cloning. We're now cloning people's voices, and we're even cloning their avatars. I've actually got a couple of examples here I can pull up and show you if that's of interest to you, where we have cloned myself. And so we can clone your voice. If you'd like to send out voicemails, we can personalize voicemails at scale or personalize videos at scale. So if you would like to be sending out, let's say, voicemails, again, it depends on how you want to use these. It could be that you've got 500, 1,000 employees. Could be that you're going out to customers. Could be that you're going out to vendors or your affiliates. It's all really up to you as to how you want to use this. But somehow you're trying to communicate with a large volume of people and you want it to be personal. So for example, if after this web class I said, okay, I want to leave a message for Jim and say, hey, Jim, it was great to have you on the web class. We look forward to an upcoming meeting with you where we can assess your company and how we can help you more. Then I called up, I've got Chris, looks like Chris Weening's on here. Let's see, flip it here. Okay, I got DM Lewis. So then I say to Chris, hey, Chris, it's Kane. I was great to see you on the web class today. Super excited to talk to you and see how we can help you more. Then I get to Nancy. Hey, Nancy, it was great to see you today, and I can't wait to talk to you more. Hey, DM, and by 4 or 5 voicemails, I'm like, this is exhausting and time-consuming. Well, now I can take my voice clone, or if I don't want to use my voice, I can take any text-to-audio bot, which there's lots of them. We teach a lot of them, and we can create the voice, which becomes the voicemail. We pop it into this tool that we use called Paraphrase. And this tool, what's called Rephrase here and resemble this whole side to it called Paraphrase. This tool will essentially adjust any parameter that you want. So I can just record the voicemail one time, and then I can say, DM, great to hear from you. Jim, great to see you today. Scott, great to see you. And I don't have to record anything more than one, but it's actually willing to change any of the parameters that I want it to change at scale. That means I can send out a voice drop or a voicemail to 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people at the same time, all communicating with them in a personalized fashion, not just voicemail, but we can also do it as a video. So this is pretty extraordinary, and it's one of about 100 different ways we're using personalized AI bots to help us be able to personalize our marketing. And here's the thing with this, if you're not using AI at the moment with the way you're doing it, here's what's going on. Your competitors and other people around you are starting to use personalized interactivity. So if you're not using it, the problem is that now humanity is getting used to actually getting personalized engagement. We've now installed this into 3 different medical clinics that are some of the top in New York City. And now every time a patient calls, they're getting an immediate personalized voicemail back from the surgeon himself, which would have never had time to be able to do that. And so now the surgeon can call right back and say, hey, we're doing this with a weight loss surgical center, bariatric surgical center right now. And excuse me, the surgeon now, as soon as somebody puts in a request for an assessment, they get a message from the surgeon that says, Jim, I appreciate you putting in this request, and we're super excited to work with you. Jim, let me tell you a little bit about how our place works, and then you can decide if you and your partner would like to come visit us. And Jim this and Jim that, and hey Jim, I noticed that you called from a 415 area code number, so you're probably from here. Like, it's so personal that if you're not doing that, the world's gonna bypass you in terms of creating that personal experience. And just one more category, just to give you a sense. I mean, we use this all over the place, but these are some fun ones to show you. Is we're automating a lot of time-consuming essential activities at organizations that we work with. So we go into companies all the time like Visa and Procter & Gamble and Siemens and large organizations, all the way down to smaller scale-ups, that are not quite, as large as those companies. But any company that's got a lot of, time-consuming activities, like what? Like email, like scheduling, right? Like anything on processing through spreadsheets. We're working with a nursing facility right now where they've got in order to recruit more nurses, they're trying to recruit 100 nurses a month to this facility. And they have to go off, and we've used AIs to scrape data, which is all totally cool and legal, off of like Indeed. And they can scrape all the data, which they would do by hand anyways, pop it into a spreadsheet, and then we can API that spreadsheet, Google Sheets, right into ChatGPT, which you saw earlier with Scott and Gilbert. And then ChatGPT can write personalized emails to each one of these people to suggest that they recruit to that nursing company. It then will send them right out to their Gmail. Now, how do I use this? I'll give you a quick feedback. I actually don't like email at all because I find it very time consuming. I own 7 agencies, and so I get about 200 emails a day that I have to answer. It takes me about an hour and a half every day to answer my emails. So what I did is I took my Gmail account, I API'd it or hooked it up over to ChatGPT. I taught it how I think and how I talk, my language patterns, which was a very simple process, in fact. And now when an email comes in Gmail, it goes right to my ChatGPT. It rewrites the email for me exactly how I would think and talk. It goes back to my drafts folder so I can review it before it goes out. And then at the end of the day, I spend about 20, 30 minutes just going through and hitting send. And it gives me 1 hour a day back of my life that I normally wouldn't have. That's about a day a week that I've gotten back, which is about a month a year. And that's extraordinary. So what we've been doing in corporations is going in and promising that we will be able to save you 1 day a week per employee that you have. And we have hit it every single time because automating time-consuming essential activities has been a game changer for a lot of companies. So we've been doing that with APIing OpenAI's chatbots over to the different types of software that you might be using, whether it's Airtable or Slack or Gmail or Google Sheets or Google Form, whatever you're using. We can either Zapier it over or make it over. There's a lot of ways we can set up these workflows. And this is one of the ways that we really go in and transform organizations. So here's where business owners are using this. They're using it in marketing departments, sales departments. They're using it for overall strategy, communications, presentation, speeches, all their social stuff. Productivity is it's just crushing it. They're becoming faster, better, cheaper. They're automating their company, systematizing. It's helping them build products or products for marketing. It's helping them in their leadership. It's helping them with recruiting, financing, and fundraising. They're training people internally. They're using it for market research. We are using this just about everywhere. Check this out. I actually asked ChatGPT, give me 100 ways businesses are using AIs right now. And it just zoom in a half a second. It gives you 100 different ways you can actually be utilizing AI tools. And it really, if I asked for 1,000, it would give me 1,000. From customer insights to using chatbots. We actually build personalized chatbots for companies right now, understanding your pricing and how it's changing the marketplace, ad optimization, inventory management, email filtering, voice assistants, and on and on and on and on and on. So anybody hear anything in there that sounds kind of cool for your organization? I'd love to see.
And then there's a lot of great stuff in there, a lot of great value. I have one question about the intuitive nature of learning these tools. What's your experience?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I think that they're pretty intuitive, but they're not totally intuitive. So one of the things that we all have been teaching the world, and this is how with Scott and Gilbert, we've been working together so that we can continue to be teaching in different industries rather. how to utilize these tools, because although they work on what's called natural language, NLP, natural language processing, and you do talk to them, and of course, I'm sure Gilbert shared with you earlier that you've already been affected by these tools with Alexa or Siri, where you talk to them, right? You use natural language. Now we're in a world where the way you communicate with them is through what's called a prompt, right? And that prompt will affect the output. So input affects the output. So if you want to know how to get the best output of these tools, you have to understand how to do the best input. That means that understanding the science behind prompt engineering is the starting place for all these tools. And whether you're using text, whether you're using images, whether you're using videos, action-oriented AIs, or even audio AIs, doesn't matter. Those are the 5 different categories of AIs. Understanding the core of prompt engineering is the starting place to understand how to communicate with them. It's a little bit like saying, hey, if I'm going to Paris and I want to speak. In fact, funny enough, I'm actually standing in Italy right now. I live here, and we've got studios, broadcast studios here in the States. We live in Costa Rica for part of the year as well. So we live all over the world, and we could be anywhere, right, to teach this stuff to corporations all over. But when I'm in Italy and I'm going to actually talk to people in Italian, I need to be able to communicate in that language, right? Now, the good thing is you don't have to learn a different language to communicate, and you don't have to code anything. These are no-code tools. But you do need to understand how they communicate for the best output. And that is actually a science. It's called prompt engineering. But it's a little bit like learning, I don't know, maybe like a new dialect of the same language, so to speak. It's very intuitive, to answer your question, Scott, but it still needs some training. And that's what we're doing right now across the world.
Kane, just a question that kind of keeps coming up with other people that I've talked to is, what's the legality of taking ChatGPT and AI off the internet or using other people's pictures or, that type of thing? Like, aren't we just copying somebody else's work and it's not really our own because it's all on there?
So okay, so there's legality and there's ethics, which are 2 different things. And we actually first default to ethics over legalities because we feel like if you follow good ethics, then you're probably not likely to fall into any legality issues. Right. Although some people ask, what are the copyright situations on things that you create on the internet, which is that's a whole interesting conversation itself. But anyways, to speak to legalities versus ethics, let's start with ethics, which is when it comes to ethics, I mean, I think each case has to be considered. So taking somebody else's stuff and redoing it has always been plagiarism. And so we're not interested in necessarily doing that. However, one of the things we teach many people in companies, corporations, and leaders is how to actually take other people's stuff to model it. And in fact, when we get into, let's say, image bots, like if you've heard of Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, or Midjourney, which are all image-based bots, which can create any images from text, they actually encourage you to use an image as a reference, because the way these systems actually work is prompt engineering. They work on context, so background, storyline, and they work on models. And so when you utilize somebody else's picture as a model, as a reference, it's a little bit like a designer saying, hey, do you like any other websites out there while we design yours? And you say, yeah, I really like this company's website. Can you design something similar? I mean, don't do it exact. We don't want to rip it off. But I'd like something that has the same values, the same essence to it. That has always been fine, ethical, and legal, because we have always looked at other people's work that we appreciated and said, I really like that. That inspires me, right? So using work to inspire you, super ethical, totally cool. We've been doing it forever. Using somebody else's work to reproduce it has always also been not very cool, nor ethical, nor legal. So I think as long as we stay in the same lines that we have always understood about managing intellectual property, we're doing pretty good. The biggest new conversation is who owns the picture that Midjourney creates? Who owns the book that's written by the AIs? And that's kind of up for new precedents in the courts. But let's just say that what's going on right now is that if more than 50% is designed by the AI tool, then the AI tool essentially, well, the answer is nobody owns it because the AI tool is not human. It can't own it, but you didn't design it either. So actually you have in perpetuity rights to use any of this stuff, but you don't have IP ownership. So that you just have to consider whether that makes sense for what you're doing whenever you're doing it. But again, in business use cases, we rarely ever run into this as long as you stay on the right side of being ethical and you utilize the tools to help speed up, do things faster, do things cheaper, and do things smarter. And you make sure you are just, working with your brain and its brain. Usually you can stay out of any sort of trouble.
Okay, thank you, Kane. We need to head over to question and answer. So I know, Jim, you're coordinating this year. We'd like to open up if there's any questions and answers for any of us, for Kane, myself, or Scott.
I would love if somebody was going to give answers. That's great. Maybe we should open up for questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
open for answers. I got a lot of questions for anybody who wants to.
Sorry.
My question.
There was quite a few that started coming in around just people making comments that while they were on the workshop, they jumped onto ChatGPT and in 30 seconds developed a training module that would normally take them 10 hours. So
Yeah.
a lot of enthusiasm there. One of the first questions was on the translation app. How does the Google Translate compare to what you're seeing in ChatGPT?
So Kane, what I did there is I actually created something in ChatGPT and I asked it to translate it into German because I knew how to do that. And
Yep.
so they're asking, what's the difference between that and the Google translation?
So Google, so it's better, and there are better than ChatGPT. So there are a couple that we use. So we actually recently invested in a company called Wordly, which is one of the top. It's got about 4 layers of translation management, so that not only is it translated, but it also fact checks, and it's got about a 90 to 95% accuracy rate. We actually use it for live events. So any of you that are actually working where you have teams internationally, you can use this tool for that. We also use it for sales, where we're doing things in other cultures. I've been giving webinars in Romanian and Spanish and French and Italian. I speak some of those. I speak Italian, French, German, and Spanish and Swedish, but not well enough to do these kind of presentations. So the fact that we can do them, we get a 90 to 95% accuracy rate from the people in the audience. So they're pretty good. DeepL is another one that's a great tool to be doing translation. So ChatGPT is good, but it's not as good as the ones that are specialized in it. And by the way, the specialized ones actually blow away Google Translate. It would almost be considered a joke by people that are looking at the Google Translate.
Imagine. And last question that I have is around pulling together images for like a PowerPoint. When you're developing a PowerPoint, can you ask it to develop images that illustrate the script? How does that happen? Or do you need another? I saw you showing some stuff that was certainly related and specifically did that, but would ChatGPT do that if you said, make a PowerPoint of this? Would it also include images?
So ChatGPT cannot do images, but there are lots of PowerPoint systems and bots that will actually take your GPT or any of your scripts and actually create images. Beautiful.ai is one of them that we tend to use. We like it a lot. And that's a good one to check out. Gamma.ai is another one that we've used for PowerPoint creation. And so on those, they're built to actually create images. GPT is not built to do images.
What I have used ChatGPT to do that is I actually asked them to suggest what images should go on for each slide. And so it gave me then the appropriate one that would be for that. And then using what Kate suggested, moving forward.
You just Google it and ask for images, right? So that would work. 2 steps, but yeah, okay, that's useful. One question here. Do you recommend putting a toll gate before unleashing AI for sales related personalized emails and stuff? You just let people have at it, or do you want to sort of have some sort of vetting process?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question. Can you ask the question again?
Do you recommend putting in a toll gate before people use some of these tools? So particularly like sales related, would someone be checking it out? Because it's all brand new, so I think it's easy to get off track a bit, right? And do something that might get you in trouble.
Yeah, so my suggestion is actually to work with a team. And actually the question from Stacy, I'm going to actually answer right here. So I'm going to drop in a link, and this link actually gives you an opportunity. Many of you are saying, how do we actually learn more about applying this into our business? So this is what we do all day long, is we actually apply AI into people's businesses. So if anybody would like to chat more about how this team here could help you implement it into your business, there's a process for assessing your workflows and showing you what's possible first, of course. But if you'd like, grab that link, just go right into the assessment, just leave us your contact information, and we can set up some time to chat and share with you how to do that more. And I think part of that question is I think anybody should jump in right away and start playing with these tools. But I think that the most powerful thing is how to implement them into your workflows. And that's what we do on a daily basis around here.
Makes sense. I guess the final question then is sort of related to that. What is the best way to learn about AI and applications in business?
The best way is to, well, I mean, this sounds very egocentric, but since we've taught about 60,000 entrepreneurs, I've seen a lot of garbage courses out there. I've even taken MIT and Stanford's courses and Harvard's courses. I find them interesting for certainly good quality, but not really applied to business. We have completely dialed this towards applied towards business. So the best way, what I would say, is let's get on a meeting together and talk about how we can help you apply it into your companies.
Okay, fair enough. And maybe one last one from Richard. Can you apply voice prompts to ChatGPT?
Yes, you can. There's a plugin that you can use voice prompting, so you can actually talk to GPT and it'll just set up the prompts, and it'll actually talk back to you as well.
And I guess just to add to this one, Kane, we actually, which I didn't show here, you can create those prompts as standard beforehand, and where you just go in and into that prompt, it has the whole prompt, but you just have to put in your name or your company or whatever else it is, and you just click on that, you fill it in, and it automatically moves forward on that. I just didn't have a chance to show that there, King, but that's a really quick way where you have pre-created prompts available and ready to go.
Right. Okay. Maybe just one last one. Then people were asking.
Team, I gotta jump because I got about 800 entrepreneurs waiting for me for the last 5 minutes just to jump out another meeting. But thank you, I appreciate it, and I'm sure Gilbert and Scott can answer that last question for you guys. And I would look forward to having a meeting with anybody that would like to discuss how to get it implemented.
Thank you very much, Kane. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The last question, yeah, it's appropriate. It's for you guys. Were you on the ChatGPT you were demonstrating? Was that the subscription one, or was it a free copy?
It doesn't matter. Either one would have worked, the free copy or the subscription one. The subscription one is about $20 a month, I believe, US. The advantage of the subscription one is that I can upload from my files directly into ChatGPT, because there's a beta copy available for that. With the free version, that's not available. So that's the advantage. And for $20 a month, it's to me it was a non-brainer of actually doing it.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, I think that's it for questions, Gilbert.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time and coming and seeing and learning from us here. Kane dropped in a form there. If you wouldn't mind just filling out that information, Kane, myself, and Scott will go over that. And what we're possibly looking as a first next step is doing some training on prompt engineering, because that
Absolutely.
is the thing that we would be using. It doesn't matter for what, be it ChatGPT, be it for pictures, videos, you name it. And that is a number of weeks course. But anyhow, drop your information, show your interest, and we're more than welcome, more than interested in giving you guys a hand. Take care. Thank you very much. Unless somebody else has something else, I'll hand it back to Amir.
Thanks, everyone. And that comes to the end of today's presentation. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've taken a lot of useful takeaways from it. And stay tuned for more in the series as they come.
Yeah, there'll be more.
I'm going to stop recording at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.